Where does one start? Waving form is the form that most emulates the internal flow of energy in your body. There's no real way of learning it. You just literally have to learn what you have to learn from the physical stuff that you're learning. The only real way to learn it is to see someone doing bits of it, and that will then go into your mind's eye and grow until one day you'll be doing the form, and then your body will just go into those positions that you saw someone doing years earlier. This form, probably more than anything else, well, not more so than any of the advanced Yang Luqian's form, but it really does give you a complete balance of Yin and Yang energies within your body. It should be done a little faster than most other forms. So you would complete the Yang Luqian's form, for instance, in about, well, I do it in 13.5 minutes. And I haven't strayed from that time yet, unless I physically slow down the movements or speed them up even faster. So it tends to, if you see that, and the reason for that is that your energy is doing certain things in your body, and everyone's energy is different, so maybe each one of you will do it at a slightly different time. But once you get into the waving form, you really get connected to your own energy. In other words, you get connected to your inner self, your inner energy, and it tells you how fast you should do the form and how you should do it. I don't do it in the waving form. It doesn't. By the time you get to do waving form, you should know about Fa Jing. You should know about instant movement. So there's no need to do any of the Fa Jing movements, because you're doing it at a cracking 13.5 minutes is a fairly cracking pace for Taiji. So it unites you, your outer self, with your inner self, in other words. And it's just a beautiful form to do. And once you start feeling it, you really want to do the form that way forevermore. As I said, you can't really, someone can't come to you and say, okay, you move this here, you move this here, and you do this. You can't really learn it like that, because it's a way of doing the normal form. It's just a different way of doing it, or an extended way of doing the form, if you like. So there are a few, like when you're first learning Yang Qingfu's form or Yang Luqian's form, I always tell people the first movement that you will actually feel something moving internally is that move, wave hands in clouds. That's where you'll actually feel something start to happen. You'll really feel sung, in other words, because this movement is the most perfectly rounded movement you can do in your Taiji. And that really emulates the flow of qi in your body anyway. You've got heaviness down here and lightness like a feather up here, with absolutely continuous movement, no stopping internally even. So when you're doing that movement, you've got to get it, there's the danger point, just there, where you're changing from yin to yang. There's always the danger of, although I can do this two ways. I can do it like this, and that'll look lovely to a novice looking on, or 99% of most Taiji instructors, that'll look great. But it's incorrect, because I had internally stoppages. I wasn't allowing them to show externally, but there were internal stoppages. Now I'll do it again correctly. Still looks much the same, a little bit slower maybe. But there's no internal stopping now. Everything's flowing without stopping. And when you're practicing yourself, that's where you really get, you've really got to watch it just there, where you're changing the states of each hand. This move, the feeling you have when you're doing this movement, most people can get a nice feeling when they're doing this, because there's hardly any hand movement happening. But as soon as they get to here, oh, it's broken. Until you get back to this, oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, it's broken there. So you've got to get the same attitude here as you do here and here. So you've got to learn to recognize when the chi is being broken in your form. And once you can get that happening, then you'll start to climb the ladder up to the waving form. Because once you get the wave hands like clouds happening, then you'll get every move in the form. So you'll come out of it and that will stay the same. And so on. And once you get to do the form at that level, then you can think about moving on and think about trying to emulate what you saw in your mind's eye of the waving form. So, I got onto that because by the same token, in the waving form, there are certain postures which lend themselves much more to the emulation of chi than other movements. So in the normal forms, it's wave hands like clouds first of all, and the next movement is actually the lifting hands motion. These are all internal learning chi postures, that's what they're called. So that's the next posture that you should feel something happening in. And so that'll go on with all your training. You'll get these little points that you'll come to, and you'll learn to recognize them. You'll know that you're coming up to one of these points. There it is, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, on to the next move, and so on. And then you'll get back here and, here's another one. And so you'll go through that for a while in your training, and then you'll learn to link the whole of those internal learning postures together, so that the whole of your form training then will become like that, like the wave hands like clouds. And in the waving form we have certain postures where that also happens. So we can then take those postures and use them as training methods in order to learn the waving form. So, but it's also important to have seen someone doing it. So I'll just do the first wave hands, grasping swallow's tail movements.